Hey fellow foodies, it's Faye from facefood.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make these lovely lemon bars. So we're going to start off very unconventional. Stick with me here. We're going to start by boiling some eggs. So I have a pot of boiling water. I'm going to bring it down to a simmer, and I'm going to drop in 3 eggs. And we're going to bring it back up to a boil, and then boil these eggs for about 15 minutes. Now you might be thinking I'm totally crazy, and maybe I am, but here what I'm doing is I'm boiling eggs to put into our dough, and what that's going to do is make the dough really tender. Trust me, it works, okay? So after they come up to a boil, we're going to put them in a bowl of ice cold water. And we're going to let this cool off, and before we peel it, maybe cool off for about 10 minutes. And then we're going to peel all 3 eggs. And once they are peeled, you can go ahead and cut each one in half lengthwise. You can see we have the yolk, and that's what we're after. You can have the white as a lovely breakfast. Okay, so you don't even need a spoon. They kind of just come out if you squeeze the whites. So we're just collecting all the yolks at this point. And now what we're going to do is place a sieve over a bowl, and then we're going to place the egg yolks in there. And we're going to use either the back of the wooden spoon or just a regular metal spoon to push the yolks through the sieve. And what this is going to do is create a nice, very fine, fluffy mixture of egg yolk, which is going to go in our dough. Alright, so to start the dough mixture, what we're going to do is we're going to begin to cream the butter. We're using unsalted butter. And unlike cakes or cupcakes or even cookies, we're not looking to aerate the butter at all. We are just going to get it started. Then I'm going to add in some sugar, all the sugar at once actually, and the boiled egg mixture. And get that in there. And we're gonna mix this on low to really just make a paste. We're not really trying to aerate this mixture at all. We're just wanting to combine it into a smooth mixture. Alright, so after about a minute or so, I'm going to go ahead and get my rubber spatula, scrape the paddle, scrape the bowl really well. This is, of course, very important. Alright, and once that is done, we'll go ahead and start continuing to mix in our other ingredients. So I'm going to turn this on a low to medium-low speed. And at this point, I'm going to add in some vanilla, just about a cap's worth. And I'm going to zest in some lemon. And I'm also going to squeeze in some lemon juice. These are lemon bars, so obviously I want some more lemon flavor in the dough. Alright, so once that is in there, I'm going to go ahead and turn the mixer back on and give it a mix on a low speed. Obviously it's going to look broken. This is mostly liquids at this point. I also added 1 egg in there, just 1 whole egg. And we're going to give that a mix. Okay, so after that is mixed up a bit, I'm going to go ahead and add in our flour. It's just regular all-purpose flour. I'm adding in all the flour at once. And actually what I'm going to do at this point, once the flour is in, is I'm going to take the bowl off the mixer, and I'm going to start to do this by hand. So I'll take the paddle off, scrape it really well, and take the bowl off the mixer and start to do this the old-fashioned way with a rubber spatula. Okay, and what you want to do is, if you've seen my cookie videos, it's kind of the similar method. We're just going to not really fold in because it's a heavy mixture, but kind of, you know, push in the flour into the wet ingredients until everything's kind of incorporated. We're not trying to like overdo it. We don't want to overmix this. We just want the flour to be somewhat absorbed into the dough. Once it no longer looks like a pile of flour and it starts to look more like dough, that's when you want to stop. Okay, and that's about what we're looking for. You can see there is still some flour visible. It's not crazy. So we'll consider that done. Alright, so once you are done mixing the flour in, the dough is good to go. We're going to go ahead and gently, we're going to place this over some saran wrap. And we're going to wrap this stuff up and let it rest. It's very important to let your dough rest whenever you're making cookie dough, pie dough, any kind of dough, tart dough. Any kind of dough, really, you really want to let it rest. It lets the flavor develop even more, it lets the dough relax, which is important. So just keep that in mind. So we'll let this rest in the fridge overnight. Well wrapped, of course. And then the next day we have our pan prepped. It's a 9x13 pan. We're using a glass pan. I definitely suggest you use a glass pan. We have it lined with aluminum foil and it's sprayed really well with cooking spray. We have our dough that we took out of the fridge and let it thaw for a couple of hours. And you can see it's softened up quite a bit, so now I can kind of just pat it down. And this doesn't have to be perfect. You can go OCD with it if you want, but it's really not necessary. No one's going to see it. So just pat it down as best as you can, as uniform as you can. And then just use a fork to dock the dough. And this doesn't have to be perfect as well. Just kind of as many holes as you can get out of it. Alright, and once that is ready to go, we're going to bake this at 325 for about 18 minutes or so until it's lightly browned. And out of the oven, pretty much looks the same. So now we can start the filling. We just wanted to pre-bake the crust, but now it's time for the filling. We have our bowl of eggs and vanilla, and I'm going to give this a whisk just to get it started. And now I'm going to go ahead and gradually add in our sugar. It's just some granulated sugar. And as I add in the sugar, you'll start to see that I made a mistake in estimating the size of the bowl. This is kind of, it's not going to work in terms of me mixing this mixture up in this bowl. So I do eventually decide to swap it out for a bigger bowl, as you can see here. So what you want to do is, once you get the sugar in there, you really want to whisk it really well until it gets lighter in color and kind of fluffier and in texture. Kind of like the ribbon stage. So then you can go ahead and add in your lemon juice all at once. I do also add in a bit of zest, but that's totally optional. And we'll whisk this up really nice. Okay, and I'm going to add in some flour and a bit of salt. When you add in the flour, you don't want to overdo it. We're not trying to make bread. We're not trying to create that gluten. You really just want to mix it until the flour is well absorbed. So once that's the case, you can go ahead and pour your filling all over the crust. And you can see I had some air bubbles on top. I just use a fork to kind of poke them out of there. You can use a toothpick as well. And you don't have to go crazy and get every tiny hole. I just kind of focus on the bigger ones. Alright, so we're going to bake this at 325, about 20 to 30 minutes. You really just want to make sure that you want the custard to be set. You don't want it to jiggle anymore. So once that is the case, you'll know it's done. And out of the oven, you can see that it's kind of lightly browned, it's set, and that's what we're looking for. So out of the oven, we're going to let this cool for about 2 hours at room temp. Then we'll place it in the fridge or the freezer for about 2 hours. I prefer the freezer. Makes it much more easier to cut. So out of the freezer, we're going to go ahead and start to cut it. So what I do is I take it out of the pan by just lifting it up. And that's the benefit of using the aluminum foil to line the pan with. And then you want to use a hot knife. I'm going to start by cutting the edges off first. That's the key to a clean cut. And you can see that I'm using a hot knife. I'm wiping it off every time, and you can do that by some hot water, or you can use a blowtorch. Either way will work. So I'm going to start by cutting down the middle, and then I cut that half in half. And you want to wipe off your knife each cut. That's very important as well. And then I'm going to turn it to its side and then cut that half in half. That makes sense. And then cut that half in half. So I'm probably not explaining it well, but you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so that side of it is done. We're going to do the other side exactly the same. And then you can see we have 16 perfect bars. I'm going to go ahead and top the lemon bars with some confectioner sugar. And that's the beauty of any imperfections on top. It will be covered with the sugar. And you want to make sure to do the sugar dusting right when you're serving it, because obviously it will absorb the sugar. So those are our lemon bars. Beautiful, tangy, tasty, all the good stuff. Get ready for spring the right way. I currently have about 6 inches of snow outside, so these are the only things getting me through. For the full recipe, go to faysfood.com, subscribe to this channel for more great videos on the way. Hit the notification bell so you can get notified once I upload. And make sure to like this video, comment below for any comments or questions. And until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day.
Take it there, cause you know I need it. It really ain't fair, cause you know I mean it. You got all of me at just one time. Stay here with me, we'll be fine.